Hi everybody, great to have you again in our next CATIA Design Talk. Today we do something very special because I have a guest with me today, but the full interview had been recorded due to some time constraints. So let me introduce you first to Alessio Grancini. Hi Alessio.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly fine. Today, as I said, we will have an interview with you and ASENSIO, but due to the time constraints, we have pre-recorded this video, and I will play the video for you right away. But you can ask questions to Alessio during the video in the chat, and we will have a Q&A live session just after the stream of the video itself. So let me start the video. Have fun.
Sounds great.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our newest CATIA Design Talk. My name is Honorata Frings, and today I have two very special guests. We will talk about a collaboration that happened in 2019 with Dassault Systèmes and Morphosis architects at the Milan Design Week to build an artistic installation named Interfaces, illustrating and revealing the continuum of data as a continuum of thoughts and process. And today, we are revisiting the use of augmented reality for the installation with Alessio Grancini, lead interactive designer for the Interface Pavilion at the International Design Fair Milan in 2019, and currently working at Magic Leap as a prototype designer. Welcome, Alessio.
Welcome, everyone, and thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. My second guest and co-host today is ASENSIO, our Vice President Design Experience. She will interview Alessio. Welcome, Anne.
Welcome, Honorata. Welcome, Alessio. Nice being with you today.
Great to have you too. So I hand over to you, Anne, and you and Alessio are going to explain to us what the installation was about and where the project is going to.
Thank you, Honorata. So, Alessio, I'm very, very pleased to see you again. You know, last time it was before the COVID. And now I'm very pleased to basically interview you to actually get into the insightful process of this installation called Interfaces, and specifically the way and the role you play within this work, because obviously you were part of the team, Morphosis team, the architecture studio based in Los Angeles. So, Alessio, tell us what was your role at the time when you did this contribution for this installation.
Sure. So I was part of. First of all, good to see you again. It's been a while. COVID in the middle. Yeah, I was lead interactive designer for the exhibition, and my role at Morphosis, I was part of the advanced technology team, and this team was really like curating how the office of Morphosis really interact with like the structure of all of the technology part of the building. So the use of CATIA most likely as a software for building like very advanced parts of the building that are not, let's say, thinkable in other terms. So there is a very advanced use of geometry. And our process always started with the use of CATIA, and my role specifically was also the one of visualizing those concepts with augmented reality and virtual reality.
Thank you, Alessio. So this was a very milestone in the way we were presenting architecture project. Usually, you know, we are used to visualization where we see the realistic result of the building, where we can just visualizing the way we see it is what we call reality. But this time, you know, the team, Morphosis team and yourself, you pick a very interesting journey to showcase actually a discrete part of performing architecture, what is based and what is being the grammar of the data, you know, the information that being used along the process, and how from those fragmented aspects of the process, how you were able to put it together. Why you basically took this this journey, and what was your basically challenges in doing it?
So as you mentioned, the exhibition was a continuum of physical space in digital format. That's a very good description of the project I've been part of. And the fact is that this installation was really more of a concept, and I'm happy to show some also visuals for. Hope you can still hear me, because I heard that. Okay, perfect.
Alessio, no worry.
Okay, so this installation that you can see some 4 extracted images in the picture was more of a concept for the future of space, right? So this space was really very neutral from the outside, and in the inside were happening a lot of interactive media installations, right? Like there were these panels that were rotating, there were some projection on top of those panels that were rotating. Those projections were synchronized, and this kind of almost like spatial playground was an example of what virtual information can be, how virtual information can be interacted in the future from everyone. These visuals that are actually part of the interior of the installation are really generated with game engines, starting from data that is from CATIA. So CATIA was our very first and main step for kind of reiterating through all of the steps that we start our design with for previous building, the Morphosis design and build. And here it was a demonstration of how all of those data are still recoverable, are still alive, and they can be part of the space as well. And this is more of a provocation. Of course, like this kind of literal use of data can have a lot of different ways to be represented. And I'm happy also to go more into details during this interview, right?
Yes, well, actually, that's where I would like to ask you, you know, what makes this experience so unique? You know, you are talking about a sensible experience, about putting an immersive experience. What specifically makes this experience unique?
I think that the fact that this experience is innovative and unique is the fact that you have a continuous back and forth between physical and digital space, and there is almost no distinction between what you can interact and what you can represent in the same space. So for example, here there are some visuals that belongs to, like I said, previous projects, like what we were discussing, the future of architecture. So what is going to be the future of spaces? And in this case, we can see, I would like to introduce the concept that really helps to understand what I'm trying to say. That is the concept of individuality of users or anyone that kind of interacts with buildings. When we think about our lives every day, especially during quarantine, we are really, really, really dependent from technology devices, like smart devices, like computer, a smartphone, and a lot of other things that really are mainly building up our days, because without those technologies, our isolation would be much heavier than what it is, right? Because we are at home, we cannot really like go outside that much because COVID is still actually a thing right now, and it definitely affected our routine. So when we are interacting with building, I like to think about our smartphone as an entry point for those spaces. And in this case, in this installation, there weren't just some visuals projected on those panels, but there were also an augmented reality application that was coming like with the installation as well. So it was a very important part of the installation. It was the main entry point, and it was the way that visitors were interacting with the installation. share some
modality of amongst those different modality to represent, this experience. Can you tell us more about this attempt to be much more individualistic, looking at an experience that will be just really driven by the individual aspect of the experience? How do you specifically were searching, to create this type of interaction?
Yes, so can you hear me correctly always? I'm just asking because you never know. But so how the individuality comes into play? We talked about this smartphone application, which I developed and directed. This application was an augmented reality application that will let you access the space and the same information that were part of the pavilion from everywhere. But also there were a very, this application would work in many different ways, not only just opening the application and that was it. It was also like very much related to the installation itself, because there were certain different ways that the application would show you information. There were a very basic one that we can see here that is really like you open the application and you could see a lot of previous building and CATIA interaction that Morphosis went through in the history of the office. And there is also another part of the installation of the application that is more of a multiplayer experience that will let you extract data outside of the pavilion itself. In this video is the last one on the right, so you can see how you can really extract literally, and this is like a more of a literal, provocative way to showcase what is the potential of these apps. Like we are extracting data outside of that specific portal that we opened there in the wall, specifically when we were testing, but then during the installation, those concepts would apply on the install itself. So in that sense, we use the augmented reality application as an entry of the pavilion, and also as a way for visitors to engage with the space. That if we think about the space by itself without any virtual context, could really be misleading and almost like seems almost ephemeral. But the fact is that if there is a lead in how to use those virtual information, becomes a totally different experience.
So basically, you are transforming the way we are addressing, the way we understand the performance of architecture. These multimodal approach and experiences are basically provided by those new technology, information, data, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, VR, all those technology. How they change the practice of architecture to the specific point of this experience, but also in general? What kind of benefits they are providing into the design practice or the architecture practice?
Well, they are providing a lot of let's say advancement. I want to say, like in architecture, I've been part of really different approaches working in previous projects. There are designers that really value the use of data. There are designers that take data as more of a tool to use just in a part of the process. There are designers that avoid to use data as well because they invest more time on design, like just like literally the design, concept design, and etc. I can say that like just thinking about technology generally, you could think about like whatever service we're used to use, like for example Google Translate or anything really that we are interacting, like social media. There is a lot of, in the background of this application, there is a lot of analysis of data that is being collected in years and years and years, and makes the experience way better than it was like previous years. This is an approach that really is also happening in architecture, right? We have so much data in architecture. We have data about space. We have data about how people move around. We have like a lot of different rules to how to build. So those rules are really like discussed right now thanks to the use of those new technologies. So like gathering data, it's a way really to predict what could be in the future, make new different choices. This is a way to see how data are impact design for sure. It's also, for me, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end just to the fact of making a new building. It just ends to the fact, for me, also extend to the way we are interacting with these spaces. So what is possible doing inside of a building, having your smartphone? Just a simple question. Like if you go to an airport, if you go to any like in any museum or any sort of like very large public spaces, usually with your smartphone, you can do quite a lot. You can see where you are at, you can look at the map, or there are some applications that are engaging for you as a visitor of that specific space. There are so many things you can do, right? And that is going to me extend also to a residential scale, to anything that can be like your place or your house or and any architecture. And more we push that thing, more we push that kind of direction, more things get related to each other, and more we are building this new virtual ecosystem that is kind of superimposed to our space.
So thank you for demonstrating how architecture practice have changed, basically from brick and mortars now to use data as the first material, probably providing hybrid buildings and cities in the future that may be done half of bytes and information and another half done with material and physicality. Can you tell us just a last thoughts before we split, Alessio, how you see the future, you know, in architecture, but from your side as a technologist, as someone looking and leveraging new technology in the practice of design and architecture? What is your view in a near future, like let's say 5-10 years?
Absolutely. So I would like to introduce some. Like the concept of versioning, for me, it's also very very related to what we talked about so far. So, for example, if we think about like the making softwares, we think about like the fact that there are a lot of different versions in time that gets better and better and better. There is a lot of people that are working on the same project. There is a lot of people that are like pushing their changes, their addition to this software, and the software is improving in time. I think in design, it's a workflow of this kind is, I think, the one that I've been part of for my career. I've seen it only in CATIA. And CATIA is really a good software because it's just giving you the history of your steps. It's versioning your steps. It's showing you what you did some long time ago, right? Like it gives you like a full transparency on your geometry that you are creating. In that sense, to me, the future of design is going to align way more data and design. Meaning that the design that you're doing, you could still design, but under the hood, like under the background process of what you're doing is really much more informative than what it is right now. And then really this depends from studio to studio, because there are a lot of architectural studios that are trying to adopt new technologies, and there are amazing projects around. And there are other architectures studio that are more traditional, and they prefer really to go through iteration and then make a choice. And you know, both are very valuable approach. I'm just really seeing what's happening now on the scene, and I'm pretty positive that like data are going to impact the profession way more than now in the future, because we're gonna have more material to work with. And also, like I said, like the future of the designer for me is really a person that it's really a person for me that is capable of versioning his project at a scale that like he is gonna know everything he did in his almost career as a designer. We're going to evaluate our portfolio in a very diverse way. We are evaluating now, in my opinion. Of course, visuals are always important because that's the final goal of design. But also how you structure those, how you get there, how the process to get there is gonna incredibly change, in my opinion.
Thank you, Alessio. Thank you for your passion, and thank you for delivering those insights, from this beautiful exhibit that we can still, see. We have a very interesting footage of it, and we will share those, on our website. Thank you, Alessio, also. I hope we will be able to work again together and other projects. Well, we open for that. And thank you again. And take care and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise.
And thanks a lot to the both of you for doing this nice talk and this interview with me. Thanks a lot. So for our audience, I'd like to invite you, if you have any questions, please join our community, creative design and styling community, where you can connect with our experts and ask questions about the talk as well. And then, so here we are again. Now is the time to ask questions live to Alessio. We are excusing, by the way, we had some sound issues with the recording that couldn't be changed, but here we are now. So my first question to you would be, Alessio, how does it work with data-driven architecture? What is on your mind when you say you use data for architecture? Do you have any special purpose that you can think of how it can be used in the future?
Sure. Can you hear me correctly?
Yes, perfectly. Yes.
Great. So like for data-driven architecture, I would say that is such a broad topic, first of all, that like for me, generalizing and giving one solution would be sort of like almost impossible in terms of the specific field I work in, that is the one of augmented reality. But on my end, I can tell that like I can also provide some example that I recently found. On the American Institute of Architects website. They made an event with this company that's called Geopogo, and they are probably architects that started to work with augmented reality and started to create use cases, because that's really what's important for augmented reality right now. And there is also a link that I can share in the comment chat here in the comments, or I shared it with you, and you can share it with the others.
Yeah.
And really, like this in this event, they go around the building and they really watched all the construction taking shapes with the Magic Leap's augmented reality glasses, and they really made like some sort of multiplayer, like some sort of collaborative review on the spot. And it's like a very different way to work, right? When you go to see, or when you go to think about how to proceed in your project. And that is a use case that grabbed my attention for sure. In other terms, I think the data-driven architecture, it's sort of unavoidable with the future. Like I guess when we work with softwares, like not every office, of course, can really afford to have all of those versioning control of all of what they do, because it also depends from what kind of workers you have in your office, what kind of people are taking care of those procedures. But if can be made an effort in that direction, where you basically are recording all of your steps, where your building information modeling becomes something more, becomes some more like a timeline, some kind of like almost like getting into this continuous work that never ends in terms of what you're doing. It's always like recording steps. So it's very easy to go back. It's very easy to document. It becomes more of a documentation instead of like a project to project approach. And I think that's going to be the probably how architecture is going to be evolving in that direction of data-driven architecture, for sure.
That is really interesting. I would think also of, I mean, if it ever comes to this, that we will wear glasses that will give us information like AR, information, then I could also imagine that these data could be used to, give directions in buildings, if you have huge buildings, or information where to find an office or whatever in different languages and things like that. So all kind of informations that you can get for a building, or for its purpose, or the people to find in this building, that could be interesting as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was I bring in an example of this. Like, I was coming back from San Francisco the other week, and I just like came out from the airport of LA, and it was very hard for me to find an Uber, or wherever the Uber was arriving. I thought it was very convoluted, the way to get an Uber, and like, Google Maps, sometimes it's even like that level of imprecision. It helps, of course, but like, I think for small distances, when you have to walk, it becomes more challenging to have a precise direction of where you have to go.
Yeah.
And so what Uber did in that scenario, they put a lot of panels around the airport that kind of drives you through a way. It's like, it kind of tells you where to go. It's like kind of like you're discovering, and they're telling you step by step where to go. And it was very stressful, to be honest, because like was not easy. Everyone was really like disoriented, and so I think in that sense, like and this is an example that I brought also up during the interview. I think like thinking of our smartphone, or whatever is going to be the device of the future, that could be glasses or could be anything else, as a point of entry for architecture. And like very, very much plugged into architecture, way more than just a location, but also more like anchored to references, anchored to sensors that are embedded in the building, that can make that kind of location exercise way more accurate and way more accessible. I think that's also one part of that vision that I have of architecture, where it says that includes not just making a building, but also like staying in this building and making it like future ready, or making it accessible through smart devices.
Yeah, for sure. And can you imagine also a usage in construction? So when you construct the building as such, I mean, of course, we have how we can construct buildings with CATIA, for instance, on the platform, with everything that you need to know. But how can you use this data for construction as such? Can you think of anything that could be useful in the future? Because right now, construction as such is a field that is not very much digitalized, and it could be much more sustainable if it would be. So in terms of the usage of, how much concrete you need, with what material you need when, and I think this could be changed by a higher level of digitalization in architecture and construction. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that overall the industry of AEC is a great match for augmented reality and data-driven architecture, because there are it's definitely a very spatial practice. So you are in space and you're doing things, you're watching around, you have a lot of it's not that easy to gather data in that sense, because visually you need to really recognize some objects. So that there is a lot of companies are doing great work in that direction. Like, like Unity has this product called Unity Reflect, for example, that they kind of like created this suit for architects to project some augmented reality information in the building side, or like around the building, and things like that. And I think in that sense, like what is always challenging, and it's been challenging for me also when I was working at Morphosis, it was also including a lot of information in that application that is showing you the surrounding, because augmented reality has some limitation in terms of you know, like rendering some things, and also CATIA for sure. Like I also remember that like I saw some augmented reality developed with CATIA when I was in Milan for the exhibition I talked about. So I think that the great match would be having the structure that you have in CATIA, the software like to the experience, but eventually apply to a very much less specific and more informal way to use it. Like if I could do what I do in CATIA with my phone, that would be amazing, right? And without the use of a computer or like a very complex interface that I need to learn. I think those two things could come together and creating like amazing products. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe in the future, who knows?
Amazing.
Okay. So I think we are at the end of our talk. Sorry. Thanks a lot for being with me today, and thanks for doing this interview with Anne before that. And I'd like to invite all of you who are watching now to join our community, which you can find right here. Just a moment. There you go. Join the community, and you can discuss with us, with all the experts, with Alessio. You can share your projects. You can ask questions about CATIA, about the CATIA design and styling solutions, and yeah, and exchange with other experts. And of course, you can join the talks. The next one, by the way, will be next week. We will talk about the collaboration of Dassault System with Human Solutions and Ramses, which is the software to place mannequins in your designs for ergonomics and things like that. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot for being with us, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.